The Pod News Weekly Review uses chapters. The last word in podcasting news. This is the Pod News Weekly Review with James Cridland and Sam Sethi.
I'm James Cridland, the editor of Pod News.
And I'm Sam Sethi, the CEO of True Fans.
We wanted to be the community for the whole industry because we know and understand that if you don't have people in these positions making decisions, nothing really changes.
Why did BIPOC Podcast Creators close? We talked to the co-founders. Plus, Spotify announces more new features than happens in an entire year in a new feature factory that has a feature of only making new features. This podcast is sponsored by Buzzsprout with the tools, support and community to ensure you keep podcasting. Start podcasting, keep podcasting with Buzzsprout.com.
From your daily newsletter, the Pod News Weekly Review.
Now, James, just when you think there can't be any more news, that everyone's said everything that can be said, oh my God, this week's going to be a jam-packed show, right? So we better kick off.
Yes, lots of Spotify news today. And interesting that I didn't hear them making any of these announcements at the podcast show in London. Goes to show what Spotify thinks of actual podcasters when they insist on announcing this to their investors instead. But what did they announce to their investors? Well,
they started off with the general overall view, because it's the first time that Gustav and Alex, the co-CEOs, presented the investor day. So, a little bit nervous. They had to convince the investors they're the right people. So they started off saying the company is exiting the curation era and entering one of the generation era. What does that mean? It looks like it's AI for Spotify. That's where they're heading.
Right.
Well, as we'll find out, there is a lot of AI. And they started talking about using AI as a moat, which is the big VC word. Where's your moat to protect your business? And, so you have to find your moat. And Spotify look like they're going to be using AI as the way to protect from other people taking over their business.
Well, that's exciting, isn't it?
Yes. Well, they went on to say that Spotify has more than 500 million users who have now streamed a video podcast. Really? 500 million people have streamed a video podcast, up nearly 50% year on year. Where's the revenue? Show us the revenue, Spotify. Oh, you didn't.
No, I mean, they're not going to show you any revenue. But also that is, have now streamed a video podcast for a minimum of 2 milliseconds.
Right.
And so therefore, that may well have happened by accident. And I believe even when you're scrolling through Spotify and you see a video podcast that auto plays, well, that counts too. I think these numbers are, I don't want to say that they are misleading, but I certainly don't think that they tell the whole story. It's the sort of numbers that you give to people who you really want to impress, but they're not the sort of numbers that you can use to compare the Spotify platform with any other platform. So I don't think it's a particularly helpful number, to be honest.
No, but these are the things that the city want or the VCs want to hear. Now, the one thing that they did say is they remain committed to their long-term goal of 1 billion subscribers, 100 billion in revenue, and over 40% in gross margin there.
I remain committed to making this podcast finish in 90 minutes. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'll manage it.
Yes. Well, it's nice to have visions and dreams. Come on.
Isn't it?
Now, the thing that really stood out from this first part of the presentation was a metric that they've come up with called time well spent. They're not talking about measuring ARPUs and measuring lifetime values, and they're not talking about the doom scrolling capabilities of TikTok to keep you on the platform for longer and longer. They're talking about how you use Spotify in those key moments, driving to work, going to school, cooking, at the gym. And they're trying to use time well spent as a new metric. They say too many platforms treat time as something to be captured and not really respected. I don't know whether this is, soft fairy stuff, but I thought it was an interesting metric that they're going to be measuring around time well spent.
But is it a metric that they've actually got any numbers for, or is it just
No.
Or is it just, we want to make everybody smile a little bit more?
Yeah, users report feeling good almost 90% of the time they spend on Spotify.
Well, great.
The other thing that they did do is they broke down their user base into 3 categories now. Before it was 2, premium users and free users, and they're now adding a third category, super users. And super users are ones that spend more time on the platform, who are cross-platform. So music, podcasts, audiobooks, they're engaged, they're premium customers. So they're now starting to look at super users as a new category of user within Spotify,
which is nice. But again, they haven't actually put any numbers next to that. There's a lovely image of the 2 co-CEOs standing in front of a graph that deliberately doesn't have any numbers on it. So super users, great. We've got some super users. That's nice. Doesn't really tell you very much more about how many super users they have, what they're going to be using to focus on that. It seems to be people who will spend more than the $12.99 that a premium user spends, but not quite sure. A lot of this is platitudes to make the investors feel good. It probably explains why they didn't bother wasting their time talking to podcasters who are actually producing the content that Spotify is making money out of. And were they to bother talking to podcast creators, then perhaps they would have said something a little bit of more substance. Did they announce any actual features or anything interesting, or was it all let's all kumbaya and let's all jump and sing together?
Well, apart from the jumping and singing together, yeah, they did, and some of them are good and some of them I don't like. So let's cover some of these. Users can now ask Spotify questions about the podcast they're listening or watching and get answers in real time. This feature is available in the US, Sweden, and Ireland, so I haven't tested it myself, and it's only available for premium users or super users. But the reality is, I thought this was a really good thing. I think I talked about it a couple of months ago that I would love to try and do this on TrueFans. I think an AI agentic interface where you can ask questions as you're listening. Oh, what did James say? What does that mean? Or
so who's in charge of the information that comes back?
Who's in charge? As in, what do you mean, James? Sorry,
you're asking Spotify questions.
Yes.
Is it some AI thing that's just going to hallucinate what I've said?
I don't know. I think the idea is it's an AI agent that sits alongside you that you can ask questions while listening to a podcast and ask questions of it in real time. Now, maybe it will be a poor experience. Maybe it'll be a good experience. We've seen Spotify DJX, which is their music interface, AI interface. It's pretty basic, fairly limited, but we've seen them.
Yeah, but all DJX is doing is it's choosing songs for you. And that's all fine, choose some songs and away you go. But what did Sam Sethi say about this? And you get a piece of AI hallucinating about what you did or didn't say.
Yeah.
And that's something that apparently the podcast creators are supposed to like, because I think that is a dreadful idea. And the first thing that I would be doing is turning that damn thing off.
Oh, really? So we would both disagree. I think I'd love to know. If you come up with a technical term I've never heard, right? So if you said something like, oh, we need to use TLS to authenticate the agent for this thing. I'm going, what's TLS? I've never heard of that expression, James. Whatever they're going to call the agent, tell me what TLS means, and it comes back and I understand it, and then I move on with the podcast. Does that not make sense?
That would be searching a website, which would be different to, this is why I'd like to know what they're saying, because you could ask this thing, what does Sam think about Spotify, and it could either hallucinate and give exactly the wrong information. Or it could give the perfect information. We don't know. I mean, the only example that Spotify have given on their blog post is at what time in this podcast are they talking about X or Y? And the thing goes away and finds out what time they ended up talking about that particular thing. I can see that being useful, although frankly that's what chapters are for. But if it's going to start, does James think that Spotify is a good idea? If it's going to start answering those sorts of questions, then I absolutely 100% do not want an AI tool, making stuff up about what I may or may not have said. That's the last thing that I want. Why would I want that?
I can see your point of view as well. I can see your point of view. Yeah. And I think the devil's going to be in the usage, isn't it? It's going to be when we get our hands on it and see what it actually can and can't do. I mean, lots of hype selling maybe, and not a lot of reality.
Maybe somebody knows, because it is available in the US and in Ireland. So if you're listening in those two countries, or in Sweden as well, and you are a premium mobile user, then you will be able to give it a go. Maybe on this show, although quite a lot of the Spotify things are on certain shows and not on all shows. But if you have any good examples of that, then please do get in touch. weekly@podnews.net is our email address. They talked a little bit more about making money as well, didn't they?
I'm not quite sure. You'll know more about this than me, probably, but dynamic creator sponsorships are now available for creators in the Spotify Partner Program.
Yes, I can bore you.
Go on then. Do that to me. Go.
So some podcasters, for example, we have a yearly contract with Buzzsprout. And what some podcasters would do is they would put any mention of our sponsor into dynamic creator sponsorships, which means that we can whip out any mention of Buzzsprout at the end of the year and resell our back catalogue to somebody else. And more obviously, you could, if we had, for example, Amazon Prime, for example, as a sponsor, we could dynamically change those sponsorship messages to mention new shows which are available on Amazon Prime, and those would dynamically set themselves all the way through the back catalogue as well. So that's quite a nice tool. It's nice that Spotify has ended up doing that, and I believe that that's now available on both video as well as audio for the first time, which is quite a nice thing. By the way, I should also say that if you want to do that sort of thing with our sponsor, then you can, because that's exactly what Buzzsprout offers. You can record a special message right at the beginning or right at the end, or however you want to end up doing that. And so that's quite a cool thing that you don't just have to use Spotify for. What was another thing that they ended up doing?
Well, I think this one's quite a biggie one. They've added memberships. It's the equivalent to supporting Cast, Patreon, or Apple Podcast Premium subscriptions. No pricing or details were given, but you can build recurring revenue directly from your most engaged fans, and the creators will own the relationship with their audience, with direct access to subscribers and the ability to import and export across platforms. Now, this is something that they haven't had. They've normally had Spotify SOA, Spotify Open Access, so you could get pay for premium content on other platforms and then use a private feed to bring into Spotify in the past. They still do that, but this is on their own platform. I think this is a big step forward for Spotify, really.
Of course, it'll only work on the Spotify platform, but I think it certainly looks interesting and the right way for Spotify to go in terms of this. The devil is in the details. We don't know how much it's going to cost. We don't know how it's going to work. The only information we know is it will launch for select creators soon, which is a way for them to announce something that they haven't actually built yet and that will only be available to 3 different people in the next 12 months. And then that's all that they particularly care about. So smoke and mirrors here, very much so. But I think interesting to see what Spotify is working on here and whether or not this will be a sensible equivalent to or replacement for something like Patreon or supporting Cast. It already sounds better than Apple Podcast Premium subscriptions in one way, in that you would get access to your audience. So you would actually know who your subscribers were, and you would actually be able to export that list and use that list for other things, which of course Apple doesn't allow you to do. From that point of view, it's a better product, but of course Apple Premium subscriptions actually exists, whereas this one doesn't yet.
Yeah, I mean, all of that agreed. And I think I said many months ago that after the court case with Apple, when Spotify realized that they could not pay the Apple tax for the in-app purchase, that they would come out with a solution to take the money that they were giving away to Patreon and Substack and Supercast. And I think this is it. So I think they're now, yes, we still do SOA, but not for long, but we still do it. So don't worry. But when memberships come up and running, we will deprecate that slowly and quietly.
Yeah, no, indeed.
Now, last couple of things I do like before we get on to the things I didn't like about this announcement. One thing they did was Spotify announced that podcasts can now be marked as verified and clarified that AI can't be used to impersonate others using voice clones. Now, I think this is a good first step. I don't know how they've done it. I don't know what standards they're using. I don't know whether this can be adapted by podcasting generally, or is it just specific to Spotify? I'm assuming it's the latter, not the former. But again, a good first step may be to get towards marking AI slop within the platform.
Well, now you say that, but that's not what Verified by Spotify does. Okay. Verified by Spotify only identifies a show as the official presence of a creator, publisher, or brand. That is the only thing that Verified by Spotify does. It says that the show has been reviewed against Spotify's standards for authenticity and trust. We don't know what those standards are. And Spotify ends up doing that identification on select shows starting today and will continue to roll out over the coming months. So we have no clue as to whether or not this show will ever be verified, for example. And presumably this is there to stop those people who are still taking other people's audio, shoving it on Anchor as a free podcast and seeing if they can make some money out of that. So presumably that's what it's there for. But there's nothing there in terms of AI at all. Unfortunately.
Okay. So we've had this feature in True Fans where you can verify and claim your podcast.
It's not even that, because we can't claim our show on Spotify. We have, but that won't give us one of these badges. It is purely just some algorithm of Spotify's that we have no control over as a creator, turning around and going, oh, well, this one must be verified. So it's again, and I don't want to sound like a grumpy, repeating parrot here. But again, it's another worthless announcement to investors that means absolutely nothing, because it genuinely means absolutely nothing. They're going to slap a verified badge on, but we have no control over whether or not they verify this show. And selected shows only.
Do we have to grease some palms somewhere, James?
I mean, this is a bit like the Twitter tick box, but at least with the Twitter tick box, you could actually contact them and say, look, this is who I am, here's the proof, please can I have a tick box? And they gave you a tick if they checked, against you and you were public and notable enough. It doesn't work that way anymore. But in this particular case, you can't even contact Spotify and say, this show ought to be a verified show, whatever that's supposed to mean. But it has nothing to do with AI, though.
Oh, okay. It said, clarified that AI can't be used to impersonate others. So I was like, oh, maybe they've done something.
In the same announcement. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Now, okay, one other thing I think that is good, they've now added clipping, so you can now clip moments from your favourite podcast in the app.
And again, Sam.
And again.
What? And again, it says you can clip moments from your favourite podcast, and then it says for specific shows only. So
okay.
So
again, you've got to start somewhere. I mean, I'm just trying to get some good news out before I give them a kicking in a minute.
So again, with all of this, it comes down to this is actually a thing where availability expanding across more shows over time. I have asked two of the Spotify PR people that have finally remembered that I exist. I've asked two of those Spotify PR people, what does this mean? Does that mean that it's restricted to only certain podcasts, which it seems to be the case? And how quickly will every show be available to be clipped. Again, my suspicion is that this will be another, we'll do this for a couple of shows and then we'll sit on our hands for 12 months, just in the same way as transcripts is, just in the same way as auto chapters are. They'll do it for the top 1 or 2% and they won't do it for the rest of us. I may be proved wrong on this, but, again, it's another one of these smoke and mirrors announcements that doesn't actually mean anything. But as you say, it will allow you, there'll be a new scissors icon in some shows, which will allow you to clip a particular segment of interest from a podcast you're listening to. And then you can share it more broadly with your audience on social media or with friends, colleagues, or anyone else. I haven't seen what one of these clips looks like. I don't know whether or not it'll actually produce a little video which you can then share, or whether it'll just link back into the Spotify app. I think I can bet what it'll do, but I don't know. I don't know what it's going to do.
I can tell you there are two models, right? One which it looks like they're doing, because I'm looking at the graphics, is that it won't actually be a standalone clip. It will be a time start and a time end, and you then link back into Spotify and it will start at that time and end at that time,
which of course benefits Spotify an awful lot.
Whereas if you use Headliner, for example, you are creating a standalone clip that is playable within the social media platform that you send it to.
Or indeed Overcast as well, which actually produces a video which you then share. You can share this on social media, that's brilliant, but people who are reading this will have to have Spotify in order for them to actually play the clip, which isn't anywhere near as good as the Overcast model, which is here's a video and you can share it.
So I think this overcomes one potential issue that might come to bite Spotify in the backside. You and I disagree on this, so let me just put my case forward and then you can slap me down as usual. But if you take a clip of our show and you take a full interview and you use that clip elsewhere, we haven't given you permission. Our license is all rights reserved. We've not given you a license for reuse. There's no Creative Commons attached to us. There's no license. So we fundamentally are not allowing you to reuse it, but you do reuse it. Where's our legal leg? Maybe we wouldn't be big enough to do anything, but maybe Oprah Winfrey or Joe Rogan might. Now, this way that Spotify looks like they're doing it, which is a timestamp where you then come back to the original podcast, means you overcome any issue, because it's a clip of the original from the original podcast that's licensed on the Spotify platform. Yeah,
I would agree that that probably a lawyer has had something to do with this. I would certainly agree with that. I think Overcast gives you a maximum of 2 minutes, so you can't share the entire thing. There is such a thing in copyright as a derivative work, which I think it might fall under and fair use potentially, but but I would certainly agree that this is the legally easier way. I mean, it is certainly the more sensible way, because of course they can claim everybody that then clicks that link as one of the 500 million people who have consumed a podcast on Spotify. So I suppose it benefits them an awful lot as well.
Yeah. Now let's get on to some of the bad things I think they've done. One of the things I dislike, and I'm not sure how it's going to work, is they've come up with Spotify Remix, a paid tool to let you remix songs, including using AI. So we're going to get a load of AI generated music. Happy days.
Yes, happy days. Now, maybe that's just remixing in the way that Apple Music can also remix songs to make them flow nicely into each other, which they do about 80% of the time and then don't 20% of the time.
No. This is taking the original content and being able to sample it, do
really?
things
Okay.
with it and publish it.
Yeah.
So TikTok and Spotify got a deal from Universal.
Yeah.
So the element that they said within the release was that obviously the original creator will make money from this. I wonder how much money they will make from it.
Yes.
And how much money will go to the remixer. Again, devil and detail.
Yes.
They've rebuilt the ad platform. That's going live in July, James, so we'll cover that later. Now, here's the one I didn't like. I don't like this at all, and I don't want to use it, but here we go. Spotify Studio. I think this one's jumped the shark for Spotify. They've launched an app called Studio that compiles wherever you want it using your own data into an AI-generated podcast. Okay, fine. Then you can ask it, with your permission, to act on your behalf, to research topics, organize information, browse the web, even complete tasks. Why do I want my music and podcast app to suddenly be my Claude Pro? Why? Looking in my inbox and calendar. Why?
Users can tell it to get them a daily brief, break down their emails, or give them a road trip mix based on destination. Now, road trip mix based on destination, yes, fine, absolutely. But breaking down my emails, I suppose the argument that they would have is this is audio, and we know that we are going to lose some audio share from things like ChatGPT and Claude that can do this sort of thing if you give them enough access to your email. And please don't, by the way. But if you did, then those sorts of services could give you that access. So therefore, that might take listening time away from Spotify. So therefore, we'll keep the listening time. So it may well be that they are having a look at. Time well spent. Of course.
Yes.
But that will be just my guess in terms of that. But yes, completely agree. I find it interesting that this is a desktop app, which you have to download, and also it's something where you get an amount of tokens that you can use for this, but then you will have to buy more tokens if you use it a lot, because of course it's using AI in the back end somewhere. I think that's interesting because that, again, is pulling back to the super users that Spotify wants, those people that are going to spend more than just the base level of a premium monthly fee. So perhaps this is another way of earning additional cash. One of the things that I particularly don't like is this AI podcast generator stuff, because that, in essence, will get in the way of creators. And I don't think that that's a good plan.
No, I don't like this. But again, as you said, maybe it's another way to increase the ARPU for the super user.
Yes, maybe it is.
That's the end of our Spotify news for this week, I think.
Yay!
Now, let's move on, James, because I don't know what this means. So I'm going to ask you. Pod News reported a few weeks ago on the closure of the BIPOC Podcast Creators. James, what is BIPOC?
Yes, well, so BIPOC, of course, is what the Americans call BAME. People of colour, essentially. And
can I just point out, I hate that term because it sounds like blame.
Oh.
So stop using it.
Nice.
Do not use that with me. I do not like it. I don't talk about wasps when I talk about white people, so don't label me as a BAME. Thank you. End of story. Move on.
Wow. Gosh, there we go. I trod in a landmine there.
Yes.
Yes. No, indeed. So BIPOC is the American version of that. And BIPOC Podcast Creators was a really good initiative that a lot of people got behind. It's run for a number of years, but they announced that it was to close only a couple of weeks or so ago. And what with that and the Podcasting Seriously Award Fund also closing this week as well, I thought I'd learn a little bit more about the reason for the closure of the BIPOC Podcast Creators Group. So I spoke to the founders to find out a little bit more.
My name is Maribel Quesada Smith, and I am the co-founder of BIPOC Podcast Creators.
My name is Tangia Alawaji Estrada, and I am also the co-founder of BIPOC Podcast Creators.
So it was announced earlier this month that BIPOC Podcast Creators is closing. Why is it going to close?
So not just one reason. There were several factors that we had to consider. This was a decision that we didn't come to lightly. I think we spent the better part of a year discussing it and looking for other options, having multiple conversations with potential buyers, not able to find a right fit. And ultimately, it was going to be better for each of us as individuals to let it go, that our journey had just come to an end. And what fed into that decision were a lot of things, market factors, like the funding situation, the revenue situation has become untenable in 2026. It's just extremely difficult. And then you You put that on top of two women we each have our own growing businesses. We each have small children and families and just all of the regular life stuff that everybody has to deal with. And we needed to make a decision.
It was a difficult decision. And initially the thought was, like Tangia said, we will transition the ownership over to somebody. I was feeling confident, like we could find the right fit and the right person to take it over. But that unfortunately was not the case. And so it just came to be that we had to close. We are making a conscious decision, and I'm walking away grateful for all of the relationships that we have built and happy and proud of all of the work that we did.
So to ask the stupid question, the issue that it set out to highlight, is that fixed now?
Not even close. If anything, we're farther away than when we first started. Our vision for BIPOC Podcast Creators when we started it was that we were just going to create a creative home for creators of color in the industry, because we were creators at that time, sort of at the beginning of our podcast careers, and just feeling really isolated. These are things that you hear from many, many indie creators. You just feel really isolated. You're looking for a community that sort of understands the hustle and that you can collaborate with and just be around and just have a good time with, right? But what we found is when we were going to various industry events, conferences, meetups, what have you, we didn't feel represented in those rooms. So we thought, we will create that space where those creators feel represented in that room, where they feel like they have a voice, where they feel like they don't have to mask or diminish themselves in any ways. They can just show up and be themselves and feel like they've come into a space where they can exist effortlessly.
You mentioned the revenue side and the support side that you should have got from large organizations. How much of that is down to the change in US politics? Is that partially to blame?
That is absolutely partially to blame. There were a lot of budget cuts with some of our partners that were related to those changes. But even, I have to say this honestly, even right before the change of government, we started to see a decline in the investment from the corporations and the bigger sponsorships that we had. There was just too many layoffs. People that were our partners, people that were rooting for us inside of these companies were laid off. And we started to lose our allies, essentially. Even though we were having conversations behind closed doors where people were saying, we want to support you and we believe in what you're doing, out in front of the cameras or in front of the microphone, they weren't really saying it. Whether it was because they weren't allowed to for budget cut reasons, or they started to become a little bit afraid to.
We have this political atmosphere that made people very afraid. And I can tell you that I had conversations that were off the record where people were saying is we can't be seen as funding quote unquote DEI. And the really big problem with that isn't just the obvious. It's also that we were never in their DEI dollars ever. Their budgets for partnering with us always came out of marketing. So what you are saying to me as a woman of color is I can't be seen associating with you financially because of the color of your skin.
So what should the industry be doing for projects like these? How should they be funded?
Well, I think that the larger question is, what is the vision of the future of the industry that you see? What does it mean for a country when you don't have middle class? What does it mean for an industry when you don't have any creators who aren't celebrities, who can't pull down 100 million downloads an episode? What do you do when everybody else is in Joe Rogan? You don't have anybody long term if you're pushing everybody out. So that is what corporations need to be thinking about down the road, is if you want to have a healthy, thriving industry, then you need to think about all of these hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of creators who are never going to be $100 million person download.
Why would they care?
Who, the companies?
Yeah.
Sustainability.
in the short term, they always cared about return on investment.
Mhm.
One big problem with the way that some of the partnerships were working was that I feel like they weren't focused on actually partnering with us sometimes. They were more focused on just visibility. And so when we tried to actually create programming and bring them in to do webinars or to do events or to add value, real value to what they were spending on, we went ignored.
It might have been the case that they wanted the badge. They just wanted to be seen as being a supporter of that and not necessarily adding to it. What should the industry be doing then? What is the ideal in terms of where the industry moves from here?
One major thing that the industry could do is to come together and figure out a way to continue to support the creator communities. And I'm not just talking about the BIPOC podcast creators or the women of color creators. I'm talking about in general. First, I think the first problem is that creators are going unseen right now, and they're struggling to keep a sustainable process or to stay in the business or to stay creating. Even if it's a hobby, there's a struggle. And you know this, James, because of the amount of podcast drop-off rates of like someone producing 7 episodes and then never doing it again. So that's the biggest challenge right now that the industry faces as a whole. And they should be worried about it because the creators have a whole economy behind them that invest in a lot of the products that are being sold in the podcasting industry.
I also feel like podcasting has changed so much and continues to change so quickly. And I think that I keep waiting for there to be a larger conversation happening in the industry about how do we protect this space and make sure that it is able to continue to thrive. And so I think that there's just this, it seems like everybody's holding their breath to some extent. Like, what is the AI going to do? What is Spotify going to do? What is Apple going to, what are all of these companies going to do? And nobody is really figuring out, again, like, what is the vision for the industry? Because you have to have something to drive to. It can't be so reactive, which it seems like where it is right now, where it's just so reactive that it's like people are waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I think that's very, very dangerous for this industry. And so part of the question to be asking is like, what should the industry be doing in general to ensure its ability to continue beyond, 2027? Because who the hell knows at this point what's going to happen?
It'll all be on YouTube by then. We'll be fine. Lucky us. 2 more questions for you. Firstly, what data is there, to come back to the BIPOC thing, what data is there about the podcast industry as a whole? I know that there's been some data done in terms of people who are talking in front of the microphone, hosts of podcast shows, but is there any data around actually how the podcast industry is made up in terms of senior people within that industry, in terms of sales, in terms of production staff, all of that kind of thing?
I don't think so.
No. And that was one thing that we always wanted to get to eventually. We'd had conversations with some of our partners about funding such surveys or research. And then even though there's no data, there's a constant discussion around, well, what the problem is it the chicken or the egg? The industry doesn't get more diverse because there aren't people in decision-making capacity and leadership positions who are willing to make decisions where like we bring in different types of voices and things like that. And one of the things that I'm very proud of was that when we created BIPOC Podcast Creators, we consciously said, this is a space for all the people who work in podcasting, not just people who make podcasts, like record a podcast or edit a podcast. It's for everyone who works in the industry, in ad sales, in marketing, in different capacities, even, people in finance. We wanted to be the community for the whole industry, because we know and understand that if you don't have people in these positions making decisions, nothing really changes.
And I suppose my last question to you is, obviously the news is out. People have been talking to you about their reaction. What are you, from the conversations that you've had over the last couple of weeks, what are you most proud of in terms of what you achieved?
Somebody gave me a call and said, I just wanted to tell you that you really did something. You two created the first and the largest unified community for people of color in podcasting. Nobody else did that. No one set out to do it. You decided to do it, and then boom, like that, it happened. And it grew really quickly. And he just said, I just want to say I'm really proud of you. It made me, it got to me on a deeper level, because when you're in the work and you're doing the work, you don't think too much about that kind of is anybody proud? You wonder if people are paying attention because you're in the work all the time. But I never stopped to think that somebody else might be proud of us.
I'm walking away proud of all of the lives that we impacted because of the community support that we provided. I know that we helped some people change their course of the career that they had. We helped people go from entry level or no level to being able to make decisions in the podcasting industry. We made connections that will last for a lifetime. And I'm really proud of some of the friendships that also came out of that. The closing part is painful, but I think it helps to know that there are people who still care. And I think we have built something that proved a point, essentially. We made a mark in the history of this industry, and now we know that it can be done. It just needs to be in a different capacity now.
I think one of the things that you have done very well is you've actually announced its closing. There are too many of these types of things which just go away and you kind of forget about them. And it's almost like, it's nothing like, but it's almost like an obituary of somebody. You only get people saying really nice, positive things after they've died. Wouldn't it be lovely if that happened before? And in this particular case, although it's nothing like it, it is really nice actually knowing, okay, this has finished now, but we can actually still have our conversations about what you both achieved and how it both worked. You're both not out of podcasting. Maribel, how can people get in touch with you and what are you doing now?
I am running and working every day in production through my company, Diferente Creative. So they can find me online at diferentecreative.com or on social media at Maribel_QS. I'm still on Instagram and LinkedIn, so you can find me there for sure.
And Tangier, where are you and how can people get in touch?
Yeah, sure. So my company is called Audacious Strategies. I'm a PR and branding firm for small businesses and women founders who are tired of being the best kept secret in their space. So you can find me at audacious-strategies.com or on Substack. My Substack newsletter is called Strategy with Teeth. So I talk about branding and PR strategy.
I forgot that I have a Substack too, that I will be re-upping again because yes, it has been dormant for a few months, given all kinds of situations in my life.
Well, very cool. Well, thank you so much, both of you. It's really good to catch up and thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
The Pod News Weekly Review will return in just a second.
Welcome to Podcasting Made Simple. I am your host, Alex Sanfilippo. As podcast guests and hosts, we are each focused on improving our skills, expanding our influence, and ultimately reaching our podcasting goals faster. On this podcast, we respect your focus, mission, and time. The format of Podcasting Made Simple is to provide very short weekly masterclass episodes from industry experts on either side of the mic. Every episode tactfully cuts through the noise and provides only the exact transformational steps that you need. As a result of listening, you'll receive practical and actionable wisdom that will help you level up as a podcast guest or host, ultimately leading you to accelerated and elevated success in podcasting. Before you start listening, I do have one request. I encourage you to go to podpros.com/episodes to find the specific episode that you most need today and start there. Again, my name is Alex Sanfilippo, and I want to thank you in advance for checking out Podcasting Made Simple.
The Pod News Weekly Review
With Buzzsprout.
Start podcasting, keep podcasting.
James, let's move on then. Apple and Audible have done a deal. What have they done, sir?
Yes, this is really nice. So Apple Podcasts have got quite a nice little feature where if you are, for example, a New York Times subscriber, as I am, you can press a button in Apple Podcasts. It will take you to the New York Times website. You can say, yes, that's me. And it will then give you access to the paid for shows within the New York Times universe. So you get access to that and you can play those in the Apple Podcasts app. So it's quite a nice way of adding additional access to shows. And interestingly, that means, of course, that the New York Times keeps access to their subscribers directly. So potentially rather better way of doing access to paid for stuff than the standard. Anyway, it turns out that Audible has done that exact deal. So now if you have a existing Audible subscription, then you can now listen to many of the podcasts within Audible Originals directly within Apple Podcasts, within a decent podcast app, which I thought is a very, very clever plan. So all of a sudden, it means that Apple Podcasts will have access to all of these shows as well, which is nice.
When I first heard this, I thought, oh, okay, I wonder what technology they've used. I wonder what they've done to make this. You know, it's Spotify SOA. Okay, very clever, Apple, but I thought, you know, what's going on? Then I did a little bit of digging. They're using the in-app purchase, because it's mobile only, to verify the purchase. So now you've got a verified user, a verified purchase, and now you give content access. No need for private feeds, no need for an unsecure URL to be handed out and passed around. I think that's really clever. And I think if this is the beginning of Apple using the App Store as a mechanism for verification of payment, it could be huge.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. The one thing I would say is that, of course, it's a proprietary system. It only works with Apple. So you've
and Apple are worried about that.
Well, so, but I mean, I don't really care what Apple think, but from a point of view of audiences, yes. You know, again, this is not open to you in the Android world. So that's one thing just to bear in mind, so far as I'm aware, at least. So I'm not quite sure that it works in that way. But nevertheless, you know, it's a good move. I think the other thing, which is probably a bit sort of hidden away here, it means that every paid for show that Audible has, and they've, according to the screenshot here, got 672 of them. Every single one of those has to have a free trailer within Apple Podcasts in order to appear there. So that essentially means that Audible now has 672 adverts within Apple Podcasts, and they will appear in the search just alongside everybody else. So it's quite a canny move from Audible, and also quite a canny move from Apple, because you can see that there's opportunities there as well. So I think it is quite a clever plan. Whether or not it's good for audiences, of course, is another question, and it definitely won't work if you're on Android. So therefore, you know, you've just got to bear that bit in mind as well. But I think it's a good and interesting thing.
Moving on then, James, let's go to the other big behemoth, YouTube. They made an announcement at the London Podcast Show that they've got a new URL to find all the podcasts on the platform, youtube.com/podcasts.
Now, they made this announcement in the UK, which we should just bear in mind. And it isn't a new URL. It's existed for 2 years or so. What's new here is that it is, for the first time, curated, rather than just being totally algorithmic in the UK.
Okay.
So there's been a curated one in the US for some time, youtube.com/podcasts. In the UK and here in Australia and in a few other places, it was just an algorithmic thing of what YouTube thought a podcast was, and then it would just show you a random list, which was always not particularly impressive. I did notice that both it's been turned on in the UK, but also it's been turned on here in Australia as well. We actually have a properly curated podcast homepage. So that's quite a useful thing. So not quite the announcement that you might guess from the from the look of the screenshot that has been sent around, but actually it's a bit more around curation and stuff like that. So that's rather a nice thing, I think.
It's very podcast-like, square images with context metadata below them, which is
indeed
not very YouTube-y, which has big
and that's really
videos.
where you can tell that this isn't just an automated thing. That there is a bit of curation in here. I think it's quite a nice it's quite a nice way in.
They also said they're rolling out auto suggestions that automatically identify your most clippable moments. So here we go with clips again. So this is very much Diary of a CEO, where they find the most clippable moments using a panel of 100 people and then send that out to try and drive traffic. Well, now YouTube is saying they're auto suggesting it. So it must be an AI interface that's finding where people are listening most.
Yes, no, I think that's a smart thing. I mean, they've already got that, of course, in their player. If you hover over any YouTube show, then you can actually see the most watched bits. I think so. Yes, so that's certainly a useful tool for any podcast creator.
And finally, we got Spotify with super fans. Obviously, we've got true fans, and then now we've got top fans on YouTube. So top fans. Yeah, we
collect them all.
We they couldn't have it. We got there first. Buy me YouTube and you can have the word. No, honestly. So top fans is a new distribution option, which I think is really cool when I look at it. So they're rolling it out at the moment. It can be watched by the 1% of fans that creators can reward for their most loyal viewers. So
that's very clever, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got number of viewing options. Public, everyone can watch your video. Private, only you and people you choose can watch your video. Unlisted, anyone with the video link. Members, which is different. And now this top fans, the 1%. So I think this is really cool, the way to give and reward users early access to content. Again, I'm curious as to the gamification. How have they identified those top 1% of users?
Yes, indeed. But I think that's a very smart tool. So you can only watch this if you're a real fan. So I think that's quite nice. It gives you a little bit of exclusivity there, and also some obvious gamification in terms of, I'm assuming that you would know if you're a top fan or not. In the interface as well, but very nice. Now
the other thing they are doing now, I hope I've got this one right, because you said I got the Spotify one wrong, which is fine. I don't mind being corrected. YouTube will start automatically tagging videos that make significant use of AI, and it's making labels for AI generated content more prominent. So in the graphic, you can see it will have an AI label somewhere on the page. And starting this week, it'll also roll out a new internal system to help identify AI-generated content. So this is labeling, correct?
Yes, this is absolutely labeling AI content. Well, there's two things that's going on here. One of them is that they are automatically spotting AI content. But the other thing is that they are labeling it. Whether or not the creator has said that it's got AI in it or not, they are labeling it, and it's a really clear label right underneath the play window if you're using normal YouTube. And I think this is really interesting. I think this is in stark contrast to what we've managed to do in podcasting. We've had an AI label proposal for creators to say this has got AI in it, although that hasn't gone particularly far. But we also have Spotify, who have no information at all, no guidelines at all about how AI can be used in podcasting. They're still thinking about how to do that. And we've got Apple, who have some content guidelines around AI, but don't enforce them. So you can actually do whatever the heck you like with Apple, and they don't care. And we're now at a position where YouTube have gone, this is a problem, we're going to fix it, here's how we fixed it. And the rest of podcasting still hasn't managed to fix any of this AI-generated material in any meaningful or consistent way. And I think it does show, unfortunately, how either it shows that people in podcasting don't care about AI, and in which case, fine, or it shows that if there is something that we want to do here about being clear when something is majority AI generated, that we, and by we I mean everything from the press covering podcasting to the Podcast Standards Project to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all of those other people just simply haven't got there yet. And it's a bit of a frustration, particularly when we've got, people like Inception Point AI flooding the zone with 15,000 shows of crap. Then we're still sitting on our hands, and we don't seem to think that that's a particular issue.
Well, Inception Point AI is a problem, but from what we've just said about Spotify allowing, third-party AI podcasts to be created based on data that you provided, blah, blah, blah. That's
Spotify is making their own.
Yeah.
Yes, so, exactly.
Moving on then, last thing from YouTube, Alison Lomax posted about child safety now.
Of course she did, and you know why she's posted about child safety?
Because she's got a child? No, why?
I mean, that's a convenient thing, isn't it? No, okay. Because she doesn't want YouTube to be banned in the UK for under 16s, as it has been here in Australia for under 16s.
Gotcha.
And so, of course, she is there on the front foot going, look at all of the clever things we're doing about child safety and stuff like that. Smoke and mirrors all the way through.
Well spotted, sir. Well spotted. I was bought in hook, line, and sinker. I was like, well done, Alison. Yes, exactly.
Well done. Oh, yes, you've done an excellent job there. Yes, take a break. Alerts,
before you go to the World
alerts.
Cup and have another concert, and before you go to the Brits again and whatever. Well done. Yes. Now, HBO Max is adding podcasts in Europe for the first time, James.
Yes, that's exciting. I wonder if Netflix has added any podcasts outside of the US yet. I know that they're going to, in terms of The Rest is Football, which will be available as a inverted commas podcast in the UK over the World Cup. But yes, I wonder whether they have done that. But anyway, yes, HBO Max is now offering podcasts in Europe. So there's a thing. It's starting with a dreadful thing from a dreadful person that I'm not even going to mention. But Netflix... Well, okay, I'll mention J.K. Rowling, and we'll leave it at that. A dreadful, horrible, hate-filled person. But interesting to see as well, Netflix making another big deal. So Pod News earlier on in the week covered a story from Ankler with Roman Wassenmuller saying that Spotify don't do exclusives anymore. The very next day, Spotify signs an exclusive alongside Netflix for Jay Shetty's On Purpose. That deal worth $100 million. Jay Shetty used to be with iHeart. He is your mate, of course.
Used to be a friend as well. No, used to be a friend.
Not anymore.
No, he's famous. No, yeah.
So the show won't be available on YouTube anymore in video. It will still obviously be available as audio on all podcast platforms. Spotify is going to be selling the ads for that, and it will be available on Netflix as well. But $100 million just for the video is interesting.
Now, are we going back to 2020? Because that's when Spotify started doing exclusives. They spent $1 billion and it failed. Live and learn isn't the first sign of madness, doing the same thing time and time again, expecting a different outcome.
I mean, that's exactly what Roman Wassenmuller said. He actually said, we can earn more money from this if we just make it available across all platforms and sell all of that. So I find it hilarious that it was literally within 24 hours. So well done them.
This is the first Spotflix deal, James. You heard it first.
Yes, it is.
Coming.
Spotify and Netflix. Yes, they won't. Sadly, they won't want your domain, Sam. But still,
I still think I'll sell it to them if they want it. 100 million. That's the current going price for it now. Yes,
you are absolutely right. I noticed too that Netflix is also taking Charlemagne the God's Breakfast Club and doing some live daily video podcasts. I'm assuming they're just filming the radio show going out, but then that's what they've been doing anyway. So I assume they're just streaming it somehow. I'm not quite sure how that works, but anyway, starting June the 1st, so you'll be able to watch that if you are in the US, 6 a.m. Eastern. You can wake up to Charlemagne the God. That to me is quite a competitor to the radio stations that he is doing that self-same breakfast show on. I'm not quite sure what those radio stations think of that, but I'm sure that iHeart is rubbing their hands together with all of the additional money that they're going to get out of all of this. And Paramount Plus, oh yay, they're talking about adding podcasts to their platform as well, so there's a thrill.
Yes, well, everyone's worked out that it's selling it attention, time well spent.
Yes, indeed.
But, can we keep you on our platform? Yes, as you
can
always
we?
say,
Who
cheap
knows?
TV. Moving on then, James. This one surprised me because of the number. RSS are saying that 51% of their podcasters are now recording video in some form. 51% is a really high number. I know I didn't expect, I would have thought 10%. I would have gone, wow, yes, that's pretty impressive. 51%, over half.
Yes, I think that's a really high number. It is a number which is quite similar to Sounds Profitable, which also released a number looking a bit like that. I'm not quite sure what that exact number is off the top of my head. But I think, that really surprised me that of the creators who are using RSS.com, 51% of them are recording video, particularly since RSS.com don't actually support video right now. So that I think is an interesting one. Presumably means that they will have to move quite fast in terms of getting video up and running on that platform. They have said that they will be doing it, but they don't yet offer it apart from a couple of internal test shows. So, but yes, it was a good piece of research that came out from RSS.com. It's worth a read if you want to take a piece of that, particularly if you work for a competing podcast hosting company, and then you can learn all about the types of people on the RSS.com platform as well.
Now, talking of video, Supporting Cast claim it's the first podcast subscription platform to deliver gated subscriber-only podcast video on Spotify. Tell me more, James.
Yes, and you will notice that the story that I wrote is Supporting Cast claims it's the first podcast subscription platform because I have a thing which I'm now going to call Cridland's Law, which is that any company that claims it's the first to do anything actually isn't. And guess what? Supercast say that Supercast has had creators publishing gated video using Spotify's distribution API since April the 27th. And they're claiming that their first Supporting Cast's PR came back to me and said, well, we started in April as well. And I can't be bothered with it. The only thing that I can tell you is that we have twice the opportunity now to offer video as a paid for upsell, but it's only available on Spotify. And of course, as I reported again yesterday, if you want to put video onto Apple Podcasts and then you also want to sell a subscription, then guess what? The people that are paying you money can't watch the video. Genius. Another. It's like that one is right next to Apple Podcasts launches video, but it's not available on the Apple TV. Yes, I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but anyway, well done, Supporting Cast and also Supercast for both being first on that. That's a wonderful thing. Right, let's go around the world. And in the UK, Global Audible announced a new premium advertising capability on YouTube. They are the only company, or one of the only companies, that can actually sell YouTube directly. And interestingly, that means that if you buy with Global, then you can buy video through YouTube. You can buy audio on their radio stations, on their podcasts, and you can also buy outdoor as well. So Global really have it all covered. DAX US has done a deal with a company called Basis to basically make it easier for political advertisers to buy audio, which is good. That should hopefully mean more revenue coming into the US podcast ecosystem. And also in the UK, smart TVs are the new place to watch podcasts. That's according to new data released this week from Signal Hill Insights and Flight Story. Almost half of UK podcast consumers are using their smart TV to watch podcasts, which is quite a high number.
Again,
I think.
I find these numbers, 51% of RSS.com,
Yeah.
44%. I mean, these numbers seem, look, I'm not, discrediting the statements, but they just feel wrong. They
just feel really high, don't they? So 21% of those people, by the way, use their smart TV just to listen. I was there thinking that nobody would want to watch just a logo, but actually a fifth of those people are, which I think is interesting. The other thing that I pulled out of that data is that there is probably a thing here in terms of marketing, because 42% say that they consumed a podcast on a smart TV with someone else. And that is actually really low for listening to audio podcasts on a phone. That number is about 10%. So 42% is quite high. So co-listening is a thing on a smart TV. But more details on that in Thursday's Pod News newsletter. What else have we got here? Well, we've got Adam Bowie, who did some really good research on the UK podcast landscape. He presented it at the podcast show. Lots of details about ages of the hosts and whether they were available on video and sentiment analysis and all this kind of stuff. It's a really good piece of work. I've asked Adam, would you mind doing that for the US numbers as well? And to his credit, he hasn't said no. So, he hasn't said yes yet either, but he hasn't said no. So that's pretty good. 72% of the hosts of the top 25 shows were male, in comparison to 49% of the British population. So still very gender imbalanced there. I'm curious to see whether the US is any better.
I bet it's not.
I bet it's not. And two other very quick things. Independent Podcasters Day is a thing. It's July the 4th. I thought that it might be more fun to call it Independence Day, as in independent.
Yes.
Day, and then you realize that it doesn't really work in audio, does it? So there's a thing. But anyway, that's being organized by Orbit and Mercury. You can pledge your allegiance, whatever that means. I've pledged my allegiance on the Independent Podcasters Day website, which you'll find linked from the podcast, and we will learn more about that on the look at you on the Creators from True Fans podcast.
I just thought I'd add that, he's on there. I just thought I'd add it.
Very nice.
Yeah, that'll hit the cutting room floor. We're okay.
And finally, some big news from Edison Podcast Metrics UK. I thought this was really interesting. It is showing that the biggest shows are getting even bigger. They are grabbing more listeners. And if you wanted to, for example, to reach 50% of all podcast listeners in 2023, then you'd need to advertise just on the top 43 shows. So already a lot of consolidation there. But now you only need the top 27 shows. So basically those top shows are attracting more and more and more people tuning in to them, which I thought was really interesting. It's part of Edison Research's UK Podcast Consumer 2026, which will be coming out later on in the summer. So some really good and interesting numbers from Edison Podcast Metrics there. Let's move on to some awards, shall we?
Yes.
Australia has a new podcast award. Yay! It's called...
Can we go for it? Can we go for it?
It's called, I mean, we could, I think, although it's got 35 categories, and I'm not quite sure whether any of those will be any good for us. Youth and Family Award, no. Entertainment and Lifestyle Award, no.
Maybe.
No. News and Public Discourse Award. This is about as close as we'll get there, possibly. Exactly. Female Creator Excellence Award. Yes. So there's a bunch of these things. The interesting thing is that this is the first podcast award, which isn't just podcast, it's also radio, audiobook, and voiceover. So there's a thing that's happening later on this year. You'll be able to enter, I think, from the 1st of June, if I remember correctly, or certainly from June or so. It's all looking quite smart. Also, there's, great, the National Magazine Awards has presented a trophy to a podcast. Weird. Pablo Torre Finds Out was the winner of that. As I mentioned earlier on, the Podcasting Seriously Awards Fund has been sunset. This was a fund to help you afford the price of an award entry, to basically mean that more smaller people could enter awards. It's given over $57,000 in grants, but yes, that has disappeared all over. That has disappeared now, which is a sad thing, but I think it had a good run.
So the London podcast show is over for 2026, James, but they've already said they're going to be announcing tickets for 2027. The event will be, again, May the 19th in London at the Islington Business Design Centre.
Yes, the 19th and the 20th, of course. Do you have any, if Jason is listening, do you have any ideas of how to make it better?
Well, did you know Jason's half Indian? I didn't know that. Anyway, moving on. Blue eyes, brown hair. Doesn't work, Jason.
Yeah.
Anyway, he says he is. I think he was bonding.
Yeah, I can see that.
No, I would like the event to go over 3 days. I think I missed
3 days?
Well, I know, but think about
how tired were you at the end of the second day?
Knackered knees.
How hungover were you at the beginning of the second day?
I didn't go to any parties, and I was a good boy in my drinking this year.
Were you?
Yes, I didn't go to any parties. Okay, pre-show that we did, I'd had a few sherbets, but after that, no, I didn't. I went home early every day. I didn't go to the parties. I thought I'd be good. But I do think I missed so many panels that I'd love to see. Just can't fit them in. Too many clash at the same time. I've said again and again and again, I'd love some more technical sessions. There's so many companies there. The PSP has a meeting off-site, all right, because we can't get sessions in the actual show. And there's so many companies involved there. And I think that would help with podcasting 2.0 and people understanding what's going on. And then again, I want to see, it broaden out. You just talked about the national awards, talking about audiobook awards and talking about TV and radio awards. And we talked about, Charlemagne the God going to Netflix, a radio show going live. I think podcasting is much broader than just audio podcasting or video podcasting. I think music, TV and radio is now part of it. And I think, maybe we can start just with little panels to begin with to introduce the concept. It doesn't have to be a full-blown thread, but I think these are the things that will make it more interesting than just another AI or video panel.
Yeah, and maybe actually the entire show doesn't end up being 3 days because it would kill us all. But I think certainly having on the Tuesday, for example, using some of the space in the venue to have, to have meetings and to have technical sessions and all of that might be quite useful. And I think, if you could do that, I think that would certainly be helpful.
If I only knew somebody who was on the panel.
If only you did, yes. And so here's hoping that I get signed up once again. For that. I think that would certainly help. I think also, to be frank, the podcast show has an interesting logo in that it says the podcast show in very big letters, and then there is a sort of rectangle where it says the word London on there. And I'm just there thinking, there's a rectangle that says London on there, but it could very easily say other places in the world, couldn't it? And I think, wouldn't that be interesting to take the excitement that the podcast show in London generates and see what you could do with that in some other places in the world as well? You'd have to be very careful and clever how you would do that, but I think that would be really interesting.
I remember a Mr. Cridland once saying that was a really crap idea because it would remove the buzz and energy, because then the Americans wouldn't come if they knew there was a podcast show.
Now, I think certainly the podcast show in New York, yes, would do exactly that and would kill that event. But I think that there are other places where you could have an event such as this, and I think that might be interesting to just sort of have a think about what you could do, maybe at the other side of the year, what you could do in order to bring the sort of feeling that you get from the podcast show elsewhere. That said, I don't know what this new podcast show in New York is going to be like, the podcast movement. I don't know what that's going to be like. It may well be that actually having podcast movement in the same venue, which I hope that they would do over a number of years, would actually end up being just as exciting as the podcast show in London is. And so perhaps the plan there is that podcast movement New York ends up being just as exciting, but we'll have to wait and see, I think, in terms of that.
Not convinced, but go on.
The tech stuff on the Pod News Weekly Review.
Yes, it's the stuff you'll find every Monday in the Pod News newsletter, and here's where Sam talks technology. 5 minutes left. Sam, how are we going to fit all of this in?
Okay. Well, very quickly, we had a podcast standards project meeting. Loads and loads of companies turned up. It was really good to see new ones like Amazon supporting Castophonic there. Hubhopper turned up. It was great. It wasn't just the usual faces. So well done to those new people joining. 4 proposals came out of it. Some I agree with and some I don't. Securely signed video requests. Now, this is something that Boss Browse Tom Rossi is trying to propose, which is to use the TLS to verify, and John Spurlock and many other people are against it. So there's the whole issue around how do you stop bots, and there are things like OPOG lists, and there are other ways of doing it. So it's a big conversation, but signed video requests may not be the right way forward. We'll see. AI disclosure, we talked about RSS.com's Alberto Botello, so he's writing something up, but we've just seen the whole industry look at labeling, so God knows where that's going to end up. Item level pod roll recommendations seemed very specific that one person wanted, so there you go. And
yeah.
Don't know. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
It wasn't me.
I think you could have that once podroll recommendations are more used. I think we wait until you can have that later. But yes, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and then you've got a standard for private podcast feeds. Now, I think this is a really big one. I think we're seeing more and more premium content. We talked about Audible and Apple. We talked about supporting casts. We've talked about Patreon. I think there's a massive opportunity. And Hernan Lopez said it was now worth $2.2 billion. I think that the way that it currently works, private feeds, works because it allows you to share equally. But once you've paid for the feed, it's just got a block capability, so it's not tag, so it's not available for SEO, but it can be shared with anyone. It's not secure. And on Reddit, there was a post that said Pocket Cast app has been frequently redistributing or leaking your private feed links. Right? I'm not blaming Pocket Cast. I think that could have been any other app that supports private feeds. They're not great, and I think this whole space needs to be reviewed very quickly, because I think it's very good for revenue, but I think it's very poor for creators because there is no verification in it at all.
No, I would definitely agree with that. So I think working on something that works better. It strikes me that private feeds and video feeds both, frankly, are looking for the same solution there, in just having some sort of control over who actually gains access to them.
I agree. That's a good idea.
And so those two just seem to be the same thing, basically. But we'll see.
The other thing that you picked up on was something called Auto Discover RSS. Now, I'll let you say his name because I can't say it. Yelda.
Yeah, so Yelda Kudai-Bergen, this is brilliant. This is a really, really clever idea. You may remember a couple of years ago when we were talking about this idea called fast follow. And fast follow was you would put a hash at the end of your at the end of a website address that you linked to, with then a fast follow code after that. And that would essentially be a GUID or something, which would allow a podcast host to look at that hash and go, oh, that is this podcast. I will subscribe you to this particular podcast. So it works in terms of being a normal URL, but it also works in terms of being something that an enabled podcast app would go, I know exactly how to subscribe to that. So you could scan a QR code with your podcast app and away you go. That was fine. But Yelda has come up with an even easier way. And I think this is such a simple way. If you go to most websites that have RSS feeds will have a link rel right at the top of the website. And it'll say in the HTML, and it'll say, here is where the RSS feed is, so that you can copy and paste that URL into an RSS reader, for example, and it will find the RSS feed for that particular blog that you're having a look at. And you can also scrape all of the page, even if that doesn't exist. You can scrape all of the page to look for RSS feeds. And if you find one of those, then you can actually you can realize that that's an RSS feed. So again, away you go. And so what Yelda has done is he's gone, well, this worked perfectly for podcasts as well. So you can start to have a QR code on your leaflet or something for your podcast that links to your own website. And as long as you are linking somehow to the RSS feed from your website, then any podcast app should be able to just go, oh, you know what? Yes, we can. There's a podcast on that page, and I will, sign you up for that, which I think is a really smart idea. He's called it direct flow. The really good news is that every single Pod News podcast page supports it. My own personal blog supports it automatically. The Pod News front page supports it automatically. And probably every page in, and by the way, every Buzzsprout podcast page also supports it. So it's already working, and it's working absolutely fine. So what a clever idea. I really like it. So basically, it means that anybody who has a podcast app can now just add a little QR code scanner, and away they go. And that's a really easy way to get a ton of shows onto your app.
Yeah, I thought it was such a good idea. It was one line of code. We added
there
it
you
quickly.
go, one line of code, and it's all done. So no, really, really clever. So I think that's excellent. The question, of course, is what happens now? Does Yelda spend a long time for the next year talking to loads of people about it, or does it go into Pod News and people go, oh yeah, that's a nice idea, and then promptly forget about it and nothing gets done? And I don't know what the answer is, but yeah,
I think it's like all these things. It's quick and simple to add. If people think there's value in it, they'll add it quickly. We'll see whether people add it first, and then whether people use it.
But I think, I mean, it works perfectly on most sites anyway already. So I think from that point of view, it's already supported by pretty well everybody by accident. And so therefore, it really needs just a few podcast apps to add this sort of thing into their app, and away they go.
Right, last couple of bits of quick news then. Podpage added support for Podping. Well done. So now you can get websites on Podpage can now update the minute you publish a new episode. Well done to them. Buy Me a Coffee have launched membership recovery, which I was thinking about you, James, from your Mastodon post when I saw this. the idea is that instead of letting someone unsubscribe immediately, what they will do is offer you either a discount, start a conversation, show them what they'll lose before they go, or ask when why they're leaving. So again, we all have this issue about people unsubscribing and subscribing, and I think Buy Me a Coffee's put in place. Look, it's been done by many others. I'm not saying it's new, but it's nice to see them trying to at least address the problem of people leaving their platform and asking why, or trying to keep.
No, it is. I think it's a very smart idea. I mean, interestingly, if you unsubscribe from the Pod News newsletter, then you get an automatic thing saying, why'd you do that then? Which is sent. I mean, wouldn't it be brilliant if you could do that for podcasts as well? But so I've been doing it since forever on the Pod News website. Almost everybody ignores it, but a few people will go, "Oh, I didn't know that," or whatever, and some people will reply, and and all of that. If you try unsubscribing, if you're in Gmail and you try unsubscribing using Gmail's unsubscribe thing, then I will send you 10 of those because thanks Gmail, you've got a bug. So yes, anyway, but yes, no, I thought that was a smart thing.
And finally, goodbye and good riddance. In January, Pod News covered an app that copied podcasts, stripped the ads from them and sold them. That developer was Ben Bowler's podcast ad block. It's been deleted, the YouTube video is gone, and yes, goodbye, good riddance.
Yes, he doesn't seem to want to be proud of that anymore, which is oh dear, never mind. Amusingly, he also has closed a couple of AI-based music apps because he couldn't get the music industry to agree to him basically copying all of their stuff as training for his AI music stuff.
Good try,
so
Ben. Good try.
Bless him. I mean, he's tried, I suppose, but still, there we go.
Yeah.
Boostergrams, super comments, zaps, fan mail, and voicemail. Our favorite time of the week. It's the Pod News Weekly Review inbox.
Yes, so many different ways to get in touch with us. Fan mail by using the link in our show notes, or boosts, or email. We share all of that money that we make too, and we spend it behind bars and things. It's not just alcohol. I mean, it's mostly alcohol.
Mainly
still,
alcohol, really,
there we go.
honest,
Martin Lindeskog, thank you so much for your 122 sats. Reposting my super comment from May the 16th. James and Sam, thanks for your kind remarks. I look forward to see the new gamification features like levels, karma points could be cool to have. I want to congratulate Neil Velio for being #1 fan of the Pod News Weekly Review. Thank you, Neil, for doing that. I am around 20,000 Satoshis short at the moment. I'm super fan of 58 podcasts. Wow. And I'm a fan of 100 plus podcasts. Here's your super user, Sam.
Yes, he is. He genuinely is. So
yes, good Lord.
Yes.
Yes, Martin, it's great to hear from you. Also, quick mentions here from Seth Goldstein, talking about Inception Point AI, saying it's all a bit outrageous. Agreed. Neil Velio, great job as always, guys. Was awesome to be part of it. Also delighted that it recorded properly. Yes, it did record properly, didn't it? Excellent. Enjoy catching up with your sleep. Yes, that's not quite happened as I was expecting. And Seth Goldstein saying, glad you're having a blast at the London Podcast Show. Yes, we did definitely have a blast, did we not?
Yes.
And thank you so much to our power supporters, 25 of them. Hurrah! Including James Preston White from Lean and Loaf, who are very excellent. Also Dan Kendall from Mission Based Media.
Best question to Inception Point AI, by the way, Dan.
Indeed. Indeed, yes. No, I thought that was a good question. And Silas, who we saw as well, and various other people. Thank you all so much for your support. Very much appreciate all of that. It helps keep us going. So what's happened for you over the last week then, Mr. Sethi?
Well, welcome to Greek Corner, James. I feel a bit like Sisyphus. Now, he was the guy who was forced by Zeus to push a rock up a hill, and when it got near the top, it rolled back down, and he had to do that for eternity. And the only reason I feel like that is because every time we think we've got a new feature or function or we're making headway, along come the big boys and seemingly just stamp all over you and build stuff. So you then have to go to the bottom of the hill again and start to push up your next rock. So it was a little bit... Yes. It was a little bit hard last week, I have to be honest. There were many things I was like, really? Can we do this? How are we going to do this? Here we go again. Right. And then you girdle your loins and you go back. But yeah, there was a bit of that last week where, we'd been talking about HLS and Apple just come in. When you talk about AI labels and they come in, and you talk about... And it just feels like every time you come up with anything that might give you a competitive advantage, it seems to get taken away from you. And it's very hard, when people say, well, why would I use your platform when I can use Apple? And you go, yeah, that's fair enough. Some days you have to think, it's the default. They have the market share. They are the, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And then other days you go, you know what? I still think I've got something unique and different and I can do this. But hard times sometimes as a startup. I think if you look at Podverse, Podcast Guru, Fountain, all of us boys, we're trying to build something new and different, and sometimes we just get stamped on, and it felt like that last week.
No, indeed, it's hard work sometimes. Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing is I learned that I'm a neophile. Yes, Greek corner, as I said. I didn't know what a neophile was, but the term is a person who has a strong affinity for novelty, new experiences, and innovation. So now I'm going to call myself a neophile. Yes, I'm very happy.
A neophile. Do you do the supermarket shop?
I do, yes.
Yes, I do the supermarket shop as well in this household, and there's a very easy way to get me to buy anything, and that's to write the word "new" on the packet. literally. Do you know what I found today? I found in the supermarket, I found McVitie's Digestives raspberry flavour. I'm sure that they'll be vile, but nevertheless, they're new.
You didn't buy
Sam.
it.
New,
No.
of course I did. New.
Okay.
Oh, well, I've got to try them.
Yeah. I did the same with orange wine, by the way.
Orange wine.
Orange wine, yes.
That sounds entirely wrong. Fruit-based drink for the lady.
Yeah. Little pinky stinking up. Yes, that was me.
Oh, dear. Good Lord.
So the other things, we are pushing ahead with our premium RSS implementation. So I think, well, I don't know if it will be, but I think when we look at insecure private feeds, I think they need to be more secure. I think some of the work that Oscar and I have been doing around the premium RSS, that was called secure RSS, is fundamentally a private feed with secure capabilities. Might roll into what Justin's writing about. So we'll see. I don't know, but we're pressing ahead on that.
Yeah.
And then a couple of podcasts I just want to recommend. Access, as I mentioned earlier, is Substack CEO talking about AI slop, free speech, and taking on YouTube. Again, in his free speech part, he will not remove Nazis from the platform. Yeah, not a good thing, Chris. Not a good thing. The New Media Show has Rob Greenlee. I saw you mention it in Pod News Daily. It has Janine Wright from Inception Point and Robert Scoble, Blast from the Past, who's come back.
Yes.
I'm on the show next week.
Oh, are you?
We'll see, yes.
Ah.
So we'll see what Rob asks me. I have no idea. Yes.
That's right, Sam. Yeah.
And then finally, Matt Deegan's Wonderful Media Club. They recorded it at the podcast show like we did our show, and the show focused on the pivot to video. I thought it was very good.
Yes, it was very good. I very much enjoyed it. I watched it on video. And you get Matt walking through the show doing the intro, which is very fancy. There's a man who's been doing some training. Yes, no, very good that was. It's well worth a peek, the Media Club, which you'll find everywhere you find your favourite podcasts and also on YouTube.
So what happened for you, James?
Well, I've been mostly trying to recover from the jet lag, and of course, this time next week, I will be talking to you from British Columbia in Canada. So won't that be a thrill, where I'll have jet lag all over again. So very much looking forward to that. But nevertheless, that'll be fun and entertaining. So I ended up writing a trip report of that. If you're a fan of tedious trip reports, then knock yourself out. You'll find that on my personal website, james.cridland.net, which is good. Also, I found this absolutely fascinating. I got a radio diary. This is a little sort of booklet that you get given by a research company, and you have to fill out what radio stations you listen to and when you listened to them and everything else. I wasn't filling it out. I just asked a researcher, would you mind? Do you have a radio diary? And they said, yes, we do. And so they gave me one. But absolutely fascinating to have a look inside it, given that, that is basically how radio people get paid. And seeing how the thing works with stickers and everything else. And you're there thinking, there must be a better way of doing this. And then you think to yourself, and actually, there isn't a better way of doing this. Genuinely, this is the right way of doing it. It's just weirdly old-fashioned. So,
is there an advertising diary? Because it sounds very similar. Did anyone listen to this ad? Oh, yes, I did, tick. Yes, I listened to it for ages. It was wonderful. Did you buy a product? Of course I did, sir, yes. No, you didn't. And you have no frigging idea. But anyway, moving on.
So that was fun. Again, more on that on my personal blog if you really want to read that sort of thing. But yes, that was good. And yes, I think next week I'm just not. I'm hoping to catch up with Justin Jackson, because Justin lives 40 minutes up the road, up the lake from where I'll be in Canada. So that should be
quick canoe up the lake for you.
Yeah, so that should be quite fun. I still have to work out who's coming to who. Right. But yes, so that should be good. But no, it should be all fun. So that's it.
In a couple of weeks, we need a new co-host because I'm going on holiday.
So well, look at you. Well, yes. we'll have to find one.
Yes.
Maybe I can
on a postcard to James Cridland.
Yes, if anybody wants to, by the way.
Don't do that, James. You're going to be flooded.
Especially if you're a power supporter, then go for it.
Yes.
Drop us an email, weekly@podnews.net. That would be lovely.
Size 11 shoes to fill, that's all.
You're never size 11 shoes.
I am, yeah. It's weird. I told you I was adopted, right? So I've got size 11 feet and I'm only 5'7". I should have been taller. I was malnutritioned at birth. That's all I can say.
Yes. Gosh. Well, you know what they say, big shoes.
Exactly. I'm not.
Big shoes,
I'll leave it there.
Big feet. And that's it for this week. All of our podcast stories taken from the Pod News daily newsletter at podnews.net.
You can support this show by streaming sats. You can give us feedback by using Buzzsprout fan mail. The link is in our show notes, and you can send us a boost or become a power supporter like the 25 power supporters at weekly.podnews.net.
Yes, our music is from TM Studios. Our voiceover is Sheila D. We use Clean Feed to record this audio, and we edit with Hindenburg, and we're hosted and sponsored by Buzzsprout. Start podcasting, keep podcasting.
Get updated every day. Subscribe to our newsletter at podnews.net. Tell your friends and grow the show.
And support us.
The Pod News Weekly Review will return next week. Keep listening.